Our speakers are very own Reverend Krista Gregory. She is a board certified chaplain who has worked in healthcare for over 25 years in both adult and pediatric hospitals. Experiencing burnout and witnessing others burnout as well, she founded the center in 2016 to transform healthcare into a more sustainable environment. Since then, she and her team have researched and developed practical daily tools that restore medical professionals to their humanity. Krista has also been, I'm so sorry, I should call you. No, you're fine. Gregory has also spearheaded efforts to address the systemic factors that contribute to a toxic medical culture, such as improving team and organizational communication. She's a trained teacher in mindful self-compassion and co-designer of the teacher training for the course Self-Compassion for Healthcare Communities with the Center for Mindful Self-Compassion. Reverend Gregory will be presenting to us developing resiliency in today's high-stress medical environment. Now, I have to tell you, she is also a very interesting person. She likes hiking. She wants to be in nature, but also she reads mystery novels. Oh, we share a similar passion. So thank you so much.
We got a small audience here, but a bigger audience, I think, online too. So, oh yeah, I see you guys, 17. So I'm going to try to stay in front of the screen so you can see me and not have to hear a talking head with no picture. Well, hi everybody. My name is Krista, as Susan said so eloquently. Thank you for the introduction. This is going to be interactive, so just kind of relax a little bit. This is not some take notes kind of moment. That is not what resilience is about anyway. I'm so tired of reading emails about how to be resilient that I hand it out for those that are in person, and I will send it to you for those online. They're also in the slides, but some handouts about just practices. We actually took our resilience practices during the pandemic and turned them into comics because we needed something a little more fun. But I'm really glad to be here with you. I know I'm the last one, and so it makes it a little harder to kind of stay engaged, but I want you to just know this will be well worth your time. So I want to talk just a little bit about who I am for a minute so you know what you're getting. Let me see where I am on my adjusting my slides. Okay, I'm hitting, but I'm not getting anywhere. Do I facing it the wrong way? Nope. There we go. That's all right. Awesome. Hold on. There we go. Okay. All right, cool. So we founded the Center for Resiliency way before the pandemic started. So I just want you to know that. And we started doing research. I've been in healthcare for 25 years and or more actually. And nothing I ever studied about self-care worked. It just didn't. Nobody ever used it. I mean, how many times have we been told to sleep and, get some sleep and get a massage and all these things that you go through. And none of us ever did that. So when we started this in 2016, it really was about figuring out what would work in the midst of our work so that we could maintain our stress level and really regulate our nervous system while we were in the midst of doing the work so that you didn't have to go up and down. And there we go. Okay. Up and down and up and down and up and down throughout your career, because I had burned out, I don't even know how many times. So we really set out to figure out something that would work in the midst of our work. So you will see some things as we go through, but our mission was equipping our people in healthcare with practical tools to survive the challenges of our unique work environment and thrive in all aspects of our lives. And I really mean that. And that's our tagline, healing people, staying human. I want you to be able to be a human and do this and not have to feel like you have to compartmentalize your life and your work. And this idea of work-life balance just wasn't happening. So we really are focused on how do we help people maintain their humanity. So what we're not going to talk about, like I said, we're not going to talk about eating right, getting plenty of sleep, exercising, or getting pedicures and massages, okay? I just guarantee you that is not what this is about. We will talk about some practical tools in the clinical setting that you can use at the bedside, in the clinic, in the middle of the stress, in the middle of pandemics, in the middle of winter storms. So, and technical difficulties with things that you're presenting. So first, let me just say, what is resiliency? I think on my next slide is probably not the one I want. Yeah. What is resiliency? I thought about this as I was preparing to come to talk to you today. I think right now, everything you're reading about resiliency is a little, it can be annoying. I've had people say, don't even use that word anymore. Of course, we're the Center for Resiliency, so I'm kind of stuck with it. But people oftentimes get offended because they say, what's wrong with you because you're not resilient, provider? That it's you that's broken. Well, let me just go there for a minute. Resiliency isn't about you in the sense of you, the provider, being broken. We're working within a broken system, right? Like healthcare is just kind of broken. It's not set up to make it sustainable for us to do our work in our lives. And so when we decided to do the Center for Resilience, it was like figuring out how I could get my power back so I could work within a broken system, healthcare in general, and be able to live my life in a way that had meaning and purpose, and I didn't have to cycle through burnout every 3 or 4 years or 5 years or whatever. How many of you in the room have burned out already in medicine? Raise your hand. Yeah, like everybody in here is raising the hand. You online, I'm assuming you might be in the same case. But yeah, I mean, that's what it was about. And so we began looking for ways to teach things we could do in the midst of our work so we could maintain it. So let me just say this too. Resiliency is a choice. I think we're resilient if we still are in healthcare, to be honest, going through 2 years of a pandemic and into the 3rd year. If you're still here, you're resilient. But what I'd like to give you today are some tools that you could increase your capacity, at least so that you could keep functioning and feel like you could get some of your power back in the midst of the story, because this is exhausting. I mean, I've seen lots of things. My husband tells me I should write a book about the kind of patient encounters I've had. But I think what's been so hard about this, it just doesn't stop. It just seems like it's kept going. The other thing I want to acknowledge as I start is you all as endocrinologists. Now, I mean, endocrinology is complicated in the sense of the kind of patients that you're dealing with. This is their, children dealing with diabetes, children dealing with thyroidism. They have to be cooperative in the midst of the story. So it makes your job difficult. And it also makes your job difficult sometimes to figure out diagnosis. So I'm going to give you some tools actually that are going to help you in those moments. When you're dealing with a difficult family, when you're dealing with a difficult patient, and even when you're at the place of being overwhelmed by the needs of the person in front of you that you may not be able to figure out. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, we're going to play for a minute. We're going to talk about the Plisoll Line. So anybody know what the Plisoll Line is? Anybody in the room? I wish I could see the chat. Let me pull the chat up here. And chat, anybody know what this is? Using boat metaphors today. There's a chat over here. Oop, can't move it. That's right. Okay, I'll just not look at it. All right. So we talk about this, and when we teach a course. We've now written a course. As Susan introduced me, we wrote a course called Self-Compassion for Healthcare Communities, and we've now, in the pandemic, we wrote a new one because we knew that healthcare was changing so rapidly. We needed to be attentive and on the edge of what we were all experiencing. So let me just tell you a little bit about this metaphor that we use with the Plisoll Line. So many years ago, back in the 1800s, there was people would bring their ships across from Europe to the United States. At the time, the Americas or whatever, I guess the 1800s was not that, but the United States, and they would overload their ships. And they would overload their ships because they had insurance. So if the ship sank, who cares? Insurance is going to pay for it. Not a problem, right? What happens? Who loses out in that scenario? People in the room are going to have to answer because chat is on. Okay. What do you think? Who loses out if the ship sinks because it's overloaded with cargo coming across the ocean? What do you think? Who's losing? Not the insurance companies, not the merchants. The people, the sailors, the people on the boat drown. Well, thanks a lot. So there was a guy named Sam Plisoll, who went to the British Parliament and said, he was kind of a social justice dude. And he said, that's not fair. In fact, that's wrong. And in fact, this is not okay. And he got the British Parliament to pass a law that said you had to draw a line on the hull of a boat that you could look at the boat and see if it was overloaded or not by a quick look. And if it was overloaded, you had to take the boat back to harbor and unload some cargo, or you had to quickly get somewhere to safety so that the people wouldn't go down, the boat wouldn't go down. And he required that in order to protect the sailors. Well, you can imagine the implications of this metaphor and what I'm talking about. We're in a healthcare system where, yeah, people are making money off of us, and sometimes we're the sailors that get sacrificed. And so I'm going to start today by giving you a tool that you can use in the midst of your work to understand where your Plisoll line is in the moment. You with me? All right. If you'd like to, you can close your eyes. You can, we do practices. All the stuff we do at the Center for Resiliency is not about meditation, because you can't meditate in the middle of taking care of patients, just saying. But I'm going to take you through this in a way that you can experience it. And then you're going to have the opportunity to use it on the fly really fast. But right now, I'd like you to experience it with me. So if you will close your eyes for a moment, if you'd like to, or if you're online, it doesn't really matter. I'd like you to take a moment. We've got 3 steps in this Plisoll Line checklist, but as we're checking on our boat, I'd like you to look down at your own Plisoll line. Where are you right now? This first step is awareness. Where are you? What does that mean? Not where are you as far as the Hilton or the DoubleTree or at home in your bedroom, but where are you? What are you feeling? What are you experiencing? What's your body telling you? You guys have been involved in a conference, you've been online, you're probably kind of exhausted from sitting on a Zoom call. You're sitting in the room, you're ready to get out of here and get to the airport. But what are you feeling right now in your body? In order to know where your Plisoll line is, you have to kind of figure that out. So think about that for a moment. See if you can answer that question for yourself. What do you feel in your body in this moment? All right, see if you can come up with any feelings that you're having. Is it anxiety? Is it exhaustion? It's kind of that's more of a symptom, but is it anger and frustration? The system you're in? Is it excitement? Because you've been at this conference and learned some pretty cool stuff. What are you feeling? Can you own it? So that first step was get aware, but stay with me, keep going. Second step in the Plisoll Line checklist, assess and address. So we're going to do a little self-assessment for a moment. You're good at doing that with your patients and families, I get that. But I'm going to ask you in your assessment, what do you need right now? As you're thinking about your shoulders were up, your jaw was tight, your stomach was grumbling, you're feeling a little thirsty. What do you need right now? Do you need a glass of water? Do you need to go to the bathroom? Do you need to talk to a friend? Because right now it's just need to connect with somebody. What do you need right now? And I'm not talking, what do I do? I'm saying, what do you need? All right, third step. You're still in your boat. You look down at your Plisoll. You figured out if you were overloaded on your boat and need to go to safe harbor, throw off some cargo, or where you are in the midst of this. You kind of figured out what you might need in this moment, whether your boat's in bad shape or not. Now the third step is to adjust. Adjust your perspective. In your mind's eye, I want you to look out and see if there are any other boats in the ocean with you. Probably. We're not in the same boat, as some people say as a saying, but we are on the same ocean. And right now we're in the middle of a pandemic. You've been at this conference with endocrinologists from across this region. Look around you in your mind's eye and realize they're in this with you. You are not alone. If you get anything from a conference, it's that. So this third step is about adjusting your perspective. Storms happen. Not because I'm broken or I did something to cause this. My boat might be overloaded because of my circumstances, but this is not my fault. And I'm probably not the only one feeling like I do. If there's a storm brewing, others are in it too. So try saying to yourself while you're thinking about this, hey, I'm not alone. I'm really not. There really are people around me that get this and understand me. Or you might say, I've got your back. That's right. I've got your back and I'm not alone in this and I can do this.
Adjusting your perspective is kind of changing what message you might have in your head and adjusting it to the reality of what is happening to you. And if you can't figure that out, imagine in this moment what your best friend would say to you. If you told them what was going on in your body, what was going on in your soul, what was going on in your spirit in the midst of the story that we just looked at, what would your best friend say to you? Not what you would say. What would your best friend say? And see if you can say that same thing to yourself. All right. Open your eyes if they were closed. Come back to me, and we're going to keep going. That's your first one. Let me just talk about that one for just a little bit. I will shift these slides a little bit if I can. And there we go. And it's not moving now. Okay. What am I doing? Try it again. There we go. All right. It's a simple, quick resiliency tool. Let me tell you, awareness is your superpower in healthcare. All right, talk to me. Anybody? Some people in the room are sort of nodding. I can't see the people online, but anything? Are you feeling it? I'm seeing some teary eyes a little bit, maybe. So talk to me a little bit about what you just experienced. Anybody? Willing to? Did you realize that your level was maybe a little high? Anybody? When I first started teaching this, we'll just go off script for a second. When I first started teaching this, we used to talk about the Plisoll line being on your forehead. And then I had a physician look at me and said, great, if it's on my forehead, I'm already drowning. Appreciate it. Thanks so much. So we moved it down to the chest area, which is, a little awkward to talk about. Put it on chest. But I mean, you want to be here. But the piece of that Plisoll Line checklist experience was to be able to look at yourself and go, where am I in this moment? Awareness is your superpower. My goodness, have we not taught each other in medicine that we should compartmentalize everything, our emotions, everything, especially when we're with a family who's having an emotional experience? It's like, I don't matter, I have to focus on them. But I'm telling you, one of the biggest resiliency tools you have is getting the data from yourself about what is going on. If you're angry, if you're frustrated, if you're sad, you need to know that. You need to know that because then you can make choices about that. If you don't know it, what happens? What tends to happen when we're not aware of what's really going inside of us? Chaotic. Yeah, it goes like this. Or I like to talk about this, the metaphorical closet over here that I'm like, I don't have time to deal with this right now. I'm going to shove it in the closet. I'm shutting the door. Thank you very much. Or you can say the rug, pushing it, whatever. But I do this over and over and over again. And then one day, the door won't close. I go, okay, I don't have to. And then the door goes, ugh, and everything spills out on top of me and on top of my staff. Right? That's what happens. But if I can be aware of what's going on with me in the moment, even if I have to put it in the closet for a moment because I don't have time to deal with it, at least I know what's in there. It's like Maria Conto cleaning your closet out. But it is true that if I can know what's in there, I have choice back. I'm not the victim to my circumstances. I can choose to do something with that. I can process it, talk to a therapist, I can go for a run, I can go, yeah, that was a day. I gotta go drink margaritas with my best friend because that was a lot. And I can choose to do something about it. What we've done in healthcare is taught each other that we should ignore our emotions. And that has been the greatest detriment that we have because that's data to you. If I have a reaction or response to this patient I just saw, that helps me. I know, like I said, if you have a patient that comes in, I mean, we're in pediatrics. I'm in pediatrics. I've been in pediatrics for over 10 years. I mean, mom comes in with a kid, the mom is being neglectful to that kid. And I have a feeling about that. Like, oh, she's not giving him the insulin when I took, she's not even checking it. Are you kidding me? I have a feeling about that. But in this moment, I'm having that conversation with this mom. I can't say, I'm really pissed off at you. I can say, I have a feeling about that. And it's anger. And I may not have time to deal with it, but I know what it is. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to deal with it. So that first part of that was getting aware. I got to get aware of what's happening with me. If I'm not, it ends up exploding all over everybody else. It ends up leading to high blood pressure. I have nurses and physicians in my office dealing with high blood pressure in their 30s. I'm like, no, you get control over that. Don't let anybody convince you that the system is what's going to destroy you. You have choice. So getting aware is really big. Assess and address, meeting your needs in the moment. I mean, my goodness, you guys are the best at that because you're endocrinologists. If you need to eat, you need to eat. I have physicians I work with, especially fellows, that have diabetes that don't eat. I mean, you can't do that, right? Yet we do it all the time. We don't drink enough water. We don't eat. We don't sleep. We don't do the things we know would help us. So assess and address gives you the moment to go, I have a choice here. I need to drink some water. I need to go to the bathroom. I need to talk to a friend. I have choice about what I do here. It's about getting your power back. And then adjusting your perspective, realizing that I didn't cause this. This is not my fault. This is the way we get it. So I gave you a comic. It's also in the slides that you have if you're online. You can pull it up. It's kind of silly, but it just goes over what I just talked to you about. If you want to play with it, use it, take it. What I like about this particular tool, let me watch my time. Yeah. What I like about this particular tool is you can use it in community. Like if I'm working with Susan and we're working in the clinic together that day, and I'm the nurse, let's say, and we're going in to see a patient, you look over and you're like, whoa, what is wrong with Krista? Like, okay, Krista, where are you? And I can go, Susan, I'm up here right now. Okay, all right, good to know, because I'm going to be working with you today, you might say to me, Susan, and I need to know where you are, because if I can know you're here, then I'll know if you get a little irritated or snappy. It's not about me, it's about you. And I might be able to back up a little bit, and go, let me give you some space, because I realize you're up here. But if I don't know that about my team, I can't really work with them in that way. And so I know it's like boyfriend. It's not me. It's not you. It's you. But you really. So I have residents that use this Plisoll Line exercise when they're doing handoff at the end of the shift. They'll look at each other and say, "All right, where is everybody?" People are like, "I'm here." Okay, I'm here. And it's a non-judgmental way to just go. This is reality. This is not I'm bad or broken. Or it's just what happened today. I'm here. Okay, well then we need to get. They'll go home at night with their partners and use this technique too, and they'll go. We need to get takeout then because you're up here. So it's a really good way to assess each other and get your power back when it comes to awareness. All right, I'm going to do another one with you because I'm looking at time and I want to give you some other tools. So sometimes when we get aware, it's a little overwhelming or overloading, maybe we could use that word. And we realize that I get aware and I say, wow, I'm really frustrated right now and I'm stuck trying to figure out what's wrong with this kid, for example, because I know with endocrinology, it can get like that. It's so, sometimes to figure out a diagnosis, usually you're getting the patient that nobody can figure out what's wrong with them. So they send them to endocrinology. Am I right? I mean, and then there's the desperate parent going, are you my savior? Are you my savior? And sometimes you're here. I'm going to do this together. You're stuck in your head trying to figure it out. And what else is going on in your head when you're trying to figure out a diagnosis and you can't figure it out? What's the message going on in your head? Anybody? If I was you, I can tell you what I would think. What goes on? I need some help. Okay, that's one. Okay, what else? Yes, dang it. What is wrong with me? Did I get my degree at Walmart? I mean, come on. I had a physician tell me that one time. We were working on a really difficult case in the pediatric ICU, and the kid was on ECMO, and we couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. He was like, Krista, I feel like I got my degree at Walmart. What is wrong with me? So sometimes when I assess and address, I realize I am stuck ruminating and I cannot get out of it. Okay? That's where I am. Is that helpful? No. My amygdala is sure activated, but my prefrontal cortex is not. And my prefrontal cortex is what I need to be rational enough to figure out what's going on. And instead, I'm stuck here. And I'm telling myself a message that's not true. So if we're looking back at the Plisoll Line, I need to adjust my perspective because I'm not stupid and I didn't get my degree at Walmart and I didn't go through, medical school, residency, fellowship, and some of you even specialize beyond that. That is not reality. My best friend would go, you're not stupid. And the fact that you can't figure it out isn't your fault, adjusting perspective again, okay? But sometimes you need an extra tool to get out of this. So I want to take you to another one, okay? So anyway, just back before I leave you that one, get aware, address it, adjust. This one you can do in 5 seconds. You can go, all right. Bathroom, break, go. That's what I'm talking about. These kind of things you use while you're working in the midst of what you're doing. You following me? Because if you don't, stuff happens. And you can know at the end of the day, let's say you do it at the end of the day. I've had days when it was, wow. And it's 6 o'clock and I'm still charting and I'm like, I'm ready. I'm still, where am I? And what I hear from myself, assess and address is, I need to go home. I just need to close the computer and leave. And that's what, but if I don't do that, I'll stay there till 9 o'clock at night typing because I haven't really gotten aware of what's happening with me. All right, you with me? All right, I'm not gonna change slides because I don't want you to look ahead, but I want you to do this with me instead. So I'd like you to stand up if you can. If you're able, go ahead and stand up. You've been sitting for 3 days, so stand up. If you're not able, if you're online and maybe you have other challenges, you can do this sitting down, but I want to give you a chance to stand up. All right, we call this one finding your anchor. Yeah, I know, it's a lot of nautical things. Just hang in there with me. The finding your anchor. Right now, I'd like you to focus on your feet. Just focus on your feet. You can close your eyes if you want, you can do whatever you want, but right now I'm literally asking you to think about the bottom of your feet. Feel them on the floor. If you're sitting, you can feel the back of your thighs. Okay. But feel your feet on the bottom of the floor, and you can like wiggle your knees a little bit, rock side to side. But I want you to get in your feet. Notice your feet on the bottom of the floor. Feel your toes in your shoes, wiggle them a little bit. Rock side to side. Like I said, you can walk a little bit if you're at home, or in the room, you can lift your feet up. Just getting in your feet. Wow, I'm in my feet. Take a deep breath. If you get distracted, get back on your feet. Just think about your feet. That's all you're thinking about. Feet. Bottom of my feet. All right. Go ahead and sit down. How are you feeling right now? Give me some.
Relax.
A little more relaxed. Okay. Anybody else? Will you tell me? Curious? Like about what this means? Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm going to go. And by the way, everything I'm teaching you has evidence-based. It's evidence-based. Like, I mean, there is a ton of neuroscience research. Some of it we've done, and some of it, but I mean, we don't teach anything at the Center for Resiliency that I can't prove to you is actually going to help. Just know that. So that's the first thing. So finding your anchor, I showed this slide on the screen, but when you're experiencing high levels of stress, you can find your anchor. You can find your anchor in your feet, your breath, your sounds around you, a dot. But what you're trying to do is getting out of this. You can see online, I'm doing this. You're getting out of your head. The person I teach with talks about this. She's like, you need to get as far away from your head as possible, because right now your head is not helping. Your head is saying, I'm stupid, I can't figure this out. Or maybe it's not being mean. It's just like, I can't figure this out. I can't figure this out. I can't figure this out. And that's where I'm stuck. What do I need to do? I need to break the neuro pattern that's going on in my brain. How do I do that? Get out of my brain. And it's a mindfulness technique to say, get in your feet. You're shifting your focus to something else. It is so simple, it's ridiculous, but it works. It really does. Now, when can you use this? And this thing on the slide shows you how to do it. You just like, this is literally all you do is think about your feet. I'm serious. And then you think, why would that make a hill of beans? But it really does. So when can we use this? Let's imagine, well, let me just ask you first, just in case you want to try. When do you think you could use this? I can't see the chat again. Let me see what the done. Fun. Okay. Oh, good. We got some good chat stuff going on here. It makes it, yeah, oh, cool. Yeah, I think this was from before. Unfortunately, because they're able to prioritize. Yes. So when do you think you could use this? We just talked about one, which was you said, like when I can't figure it out and I feel like, what's wrong? I can't figure this out. When else could you use this?
This is like you said, mindfulness technique. I just love my client called it grounding activities.
Same deal. Yeah, you do it at the very beginning. Yeah, because it can get them out of whatever they came in with into their feet. You can use it with your patients and families. And if you use it with your patients and families, it can also get you on the same playing field, which is kind of nice. And if you teach it to somebody else, it makes you do it too, which is sort of the extra bonus. But when else could you use it? I'm going to give you a couple of examples. This one is not directly related to endocrinology, but you could totally take this where you need to take it. I was working with respiratory therapists, and they had this family in the pediatric ICU that just said, we hate respiratory therapy. They know nothing. We know more about our kid than they do. And so everybody hated going in the room. So to translate it to your clinic, you can imagine it's the family. You're like, oh, it's them. They're on my schedule today. Really? Oh, it's going to be over there, right? You're there. You're totally there. Everybody in the room's laughing. Yeah, you're there. This is the moment to get in your feet. because what's going on up here, not helpful. I'm forming kinds of thoughts about this family, this patient. Oh, get in my feet. So I walk in the room, and sure enough, they're spinning in the vortex of their anxiety about their kid, or their anger about the last time they saw me, and man, they are sucking me in. It's like a hurricane going on over there with that family, that mom and that kid. And it is sucking me into their emotional experience, right? And you're like, oh, get in your feet. Get in your feet. Like, really, don't allow yourself to be sucked into their emotional experience, because it's not going to help you. But it happens automatically if I'm not aware. Back to awareness again. So what I tell people, what I was telling respiratory therapy, as they walked into the room with this family who's like, we hate you and we know more, we're so smart, blah, blah. I was like, you can walk around the bed real calmly. They have no idea that you're in your head and your feet. Hello, family. I'm in my feet. You can walk over to the oxygen and you're checking the oxygen. I'm in my feet. I'm in my feet. They don't know that I'm in my feet, but I'm in my feet. Why? Because it's keeping me grounded. They're not going to have the power to change my day or the rest of what happens to my day. Because how many times has this been my situation? I see a family like that during the day and the whole day is ruined because now my schedule's off and oh my gosh. And I've just been spinning in their vortex of their stuff. And then I take it to the next room and the next room and the next room. Get in your feet. Super simple, but really miraculous. Okay. All right. We're going to keep going here. Let me see what I got. Let's go to the next one. Oh, I clicked out of that and click back in. All right. I can show you some research, but I think I'm looking at time. I don't want to do that. You can look at our website. I will send you some stuff on that as well. I'll just glance through this. We've been doing research on let me change this, move this guy out of the way. We've been doing research with interdisciplinary healthcare professionals for a long, long time. This was from 2020, but it's also gone through 2021 now, where we've looked at self-compassion, mindfulness, resilience, decompression, and professional fulfillment. And we've shown some pretty significant movement by the things that we teach people. Let me just keep going here. Here we go. We've been showing decreases in work exhaustion. Let me get this out of the way. Interprofessional disengagement, perceived stress, difficulties with emotions, and emotional regulation. Okay, hang on. We've also been studying pediatric residents. This is one of the other groups we've been looking at, and looking at self-compassion, mindfulness, resilience, decompression, professional fulfillment, quality of care. I mean, we've been looking at how resiliency techniques can affect how you take care of patients as well. It really does. Like, this is not about doing something for self-care. This is really about owning my humanity in a way that gives me my power back, both with my patients and families, but in my life. Let's see, here we go. Here's our pediatric resident one. Work exhaustion, this was, yeah, at the end of the year, you can imagine it went up a little bit. All right, let me see where else I am. But I want to get to this last treatment. Hang on just a second. Let me find my last slide because it's one of my favorites. Okay, here we go. This is where I want to go next. All right. Empathy and compassion. I've sort of given it away because I showed you the slide. But let's just talk about this. What happens when you have a family that's really, really struggling? And isn't it not true? In pediatrics especially, I think it is this way in adults, but you can kind of give the power back to the adult, like they're not doing it anyway. But you've got a kid. There's just so much more emotions that go with that. In healthcare, we talk about compassion fatigue. Have you heard that? Compassion fatigue. Okay. I'm going to tell you that I don't believe in compassion fatigue. And here's what I'm going to tell you why. Let me take a few minutes and talk about the difference between empathy and compassion. And this slide sort of gives it away, but I'm going to walk you through it verbally and narratively. So empathy is when I look at my patient, and my patient or my parent that I'm working with is really struggling, and I begin to empathize with them. I'm empathizing with them. I'm feeling their emotions. Empathy is literally feeling what the other person's feeling. We do this in healthcare all the time. We literally feel, if you're angry, you're sad. Oh, I'm feeling sad too. If I look at you and you're having a fantastic day, you give me an incredible smile. I'm like, oh, it's just, yeah. And then I'm feeling that energy. COVID is not the only thing that's contagious. Emotions are contagious too. So empathy is about literally feeling what you're feeling when I look at you. And I can look at you. If I looked at you and you were going, oh, like I would go, oh my gosh, there's a tiger behind, something about to attack me, right? You wouldn't have to tell me anything. And I could look at you and know that something was happening. So now there are kids that we work with that have autism, and some adults and friends and colleagues we work with also are sometimes on the spectrum, and they struggle to read people. But the way we typically do empathy is I read you and you tell me how you are. And that's a great tool to use as a physician. However, if the kind of people you're working with for your 12-hour shift or your 8-hour day are sad and struggling and anxious and well then, I'm empathizing with that for 8 hours a day, right? Well, that's not super helpful if I'm trying to stay away from burnout. So this is an image of the difference between empathy and compassion. So empathy is me jumping down in the hole with you. Wow, you're having, I'm just gonna come down the hole with you. We're just gonna talk about it. And we're all gonna be like in this hole together. And because I care about you so much. Now look at me in the hole. How am I gonna get out? I went in the hole, great. They're like, she's such a caring physician. But now I can't get out. Compassion's different. Compassion is where I can care about you, I can empathize with you, but I can do action. But in order to do that, I can't jump in the hole. I can't. But yet we've been taught that this is the way you relate to your patients. We've been taught that you jump in the hole with them. We've been taught that you empathize all the time, and that's what this is about. That's how we do this. But what does that lead to? It leads to burnout. It leads to the point where you're like, if one more person walks in and is not taking care of the diabetes with their kid, I'm done. I'm so done, right? Is that not true? You're laughing because you're like, oh my gosh. That's empathy. The compassion allows me to stay on the edge of the cliff, look down at you and go, wow, that's really hard for you, mom and kid, really is. I'm going to throw you this rope. You can grab it or not. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't want to come out of the pit, right? They want to be the mom that's always, and that's who they're going to be. But I can throw the rope. If I was going to have sympathy would be on the other cliff, looking down at empathy going, or looking down at the sad person going, oh, that's really hard for them. Oh, that's sympathy. Empathy, I jumped in. Compassion, I'm on the hill going, I'm helping you. I'm throwing you a rope. And you can choose to grab it or not, but I'm here and I'm going to keep looking at you and I'm going to help you. You see the other people behind compassion? Who are those people? Who do you think they are? Yeah, it could be the people that work in your clinic with you, because you're like, this family sucks me in every time. Every time I see this mom, I walk out and like, okay, you got to have me. All right, I got your rope. I'm holding on because I know they're going to suck you down in the pit. I got you. And I'm going to help you, not overcommit, not overpromise, not tell them they can call you 24 hours a day. I've got your rope. And that's your team. That's what's different about healthcare. So that's really important. All right, I want to take you through one last practice. I know I'm out of time, but this is a really, really valuable one. It's in your slides and it's in your handouts if you're in the room. And let me see if I can get there. Because, okay. I want you to close your eyes for a moment. If you can, if you want to. This is the last one. So if you're hanging out and you're like, oh, she's gone over time. But I started late, so give me some grace. I'd like you to close your eyes, and just because you're going back in your memory. I'd like you to think of a mildly distressing situation with a patient and family. You can do that. Choose one that's happened to you recently. Maybe it was a colleague. You can choose one in your personal or professional life, but I want you to think about someone you're caring for who is struggling. Like I said, it can be a patient, it can be family, someone you're working with who's suffering. And suffering is a hard word, but they're having a rough time, whatever that is. I want you to imagine them, think about the scenario with them. All right, and just like the Plisoll Line checklist we did earlier, I want you to pay attention to what you may start feeling in your body as you think about them. And maybe you're feeling some stress as you remember this situation. Even if it's a family member you're thinking of, you're starting to feel your shoulders creeping up, maybe your jaw getting tight. This was a distressing situation. Just notice what's happening. You don't have to do anything about it. Just notice it. And now I want you to take a deep breath. And as you inhale, imagine you're bringing in compassion for yourself, because it's really hard to be in this situation with this family or this person or this family member or this patient. So you're bringing in compassion to yourself. And as you exhale, imagine blowing compassion their direction. You're inhaling compassion for yourself because it's really hard to be in this situation. And you're exhaling compassion for them. Just keep doing that while I'm talking. But what I'm going to remind you of is it's like one for me, one for you. Sometimes they're really stressing you out. And it's 2 or 3 or 4 for me, and one tiny one for you. Sometimes you're feeling pretty good. It's 1 for me and 3 for you. But you're inhaling compassion for you, exhaling compassion for them. We're living on an ocean of compassion. There is plenty for everyone. And now I'd like you to listen to these words as you're thinking of this situation. Everyone is on their own life journey. I'm not the cause of this person's suffering, nor is it entirely within my power to make it go away, even if I wish I could. Moments like this are difficult to bear, yet I will still try to help if I can. Continue breathing in compassion for yourself, back to compassion for them. And just notice how your body is feeling as you acknowledge what's happening with them and what's happening with you. Everyone is on their own life journey. I'm not the cause of this person's suffering, nor is it entirely within my power to make it go away, even if I wish I could. Moments like this are difficult to bear, yet I will still try to help if I can. All right, if you have your eyes closed, you can kind of find your way back. We're going to talk about this for a little bit. This is how we're going to end. What struck you about those phrases? Anything? Yeah, I am not the cause of this person's suffering. You're not. We've taught this, actually, this particular practice comes from Dr. Kristen Neff. I did a lot of research with her for about 4 years, and we had this, it's hers, so give her credit. We did this with parents. And so parents would sometimes say, I am the cause of their suffering. I genetically gave them diabetes, And then we would say, I am not the entire cause of their suffering. But they used this practice too. It was very, very powerful for parents. So that's the one that struck you. Any of the other ones that helped you? Any other part of the phrases that helped you in this? Yeah. It's not entirely within my power to make it go away, even if I wish I could. Because, right, sometimes we want to believe it is. And sometimes they're projecting on you, it is. You better fix it, Dr. Endocrinologist. Right? And that's one way to go, whoa, this is your life journey. You're the one in the hole. I'm going to help you. But this is not my life journey. This is yours. And I'm going to come into your journey with you. This is yours. Really important practice. I use this all the time in a lot of different ways. I will use it with a colleague that's having a really bad day and maybe above me in power, and they're telling me what to do. I'm like, wow, they are on their own life journey about this whole thing. And I am not the cause of them being upset today about this situation, nor is it entirely within my power to make them feel better. And I wish I could, because this is really stressful to deal with them. moments like this are difficult to bear, and I'll try to help as I can. There's a lot of ways to do this. You can use this with family that comes in with a million needs. Like they need a new car, they need new parents, they need a house and food, and you're like, oh my goodness. Okay, they're on their own life journey. Did you cause the situation of where they are in the poverty that they're suffering? I mean, we could look globally and say, maybe I had some cause in that because I'm a person of privilege and education. But in this moment, no, I didn't cause their circumstance, nor is it entirely within my power to change it today. Okay, in this moment, even if I wish I could, moments that are difficult to bear, yet I will still try to help as I can. So you can still help. This allows you to help in the way you can without being overwhelmed and entangled in their story, which is what which makes it difficult. Like if you get all wrapped up in their story, you're not really very helpful anyway. You're in fact stuck in the bottom of the hole. But if you can hold this piece separate, you're still connected and you have the power to make change because you're not entangled. Make sense? So I use this phrase a lot. I'll break it up. Sometimes I just use a piece of it. Sometimes I use one of it. That's how it works. All right, that's me. This is where it's all about. You can find me. You can take classes with me. I teach resiliency training in a day-long workshop. I do it virtually. We teach people all over the world. This is the kind of stuff we teach, stuff you use while you're in the middle of your job so that you can function and be a whole person. And so you can go home at the end of the day and not have soared up into, we call this zone of resilience, soared up into hyper zone where I'm like, oh gosh, someone said this a minute ago, and then I go home and I either crash and I can't get off the couch, or I get home and I'm hyper and I can't really relate to my family. I don't want that for you. We've learned the secrets, I think, of how to keep you in the zone so that you can function and do your job and have a family and have a life and you know what's going on, and still love your parent, your patients, and be engaged with them, but not be overwhelmed by them, or still function in an administrative system in your healthcare area that is broken and not helping you. How do I do that and hold on to my power? That's what this is about. That's what resilience is about, which means you have choice in this about how you do that. You don't have to be the victim. You don't have to be the victim to the pandemic. You don't have to be the victim to a broken healthcare system. You have choice about how this works. So anyway, check us out. You can go to our website. Just about everything we do is free. Resiliency training is not, but it's not that expensive. But we have other things like Tuesday night coming up. I have Mortals in Medicine. It's a storytelling night where people, and it's on Zoom, and it'll be hybrid once we get back in person, but where people share very vulnerable stories about what it's like to be in healthcare. For healthcare people, only healthcare people listen. We have that. We have something called Women Rising, the room that I'm in. There may be other people online that are not female, but I have a group called Women Rising. It's for female physicians where we talk about the challenges that female physicians face with a leader that talks about life. How do you do kids, or how do you date, or how do you do this? We talk about it and dialogue about it. It's fantastic. One of my favorite things. We do Schwartz rounds. We like 10 different things. Those in the room, I hand you like a list of everything we do. Check us out. It's not an advertisement, it's a calling to say, I'm here for you and I get it and you're not alone. And there are people out here who are doing it in a way that doesn't involve getting a massage. Thank you very much. Love you guys. Thanks for letting me go over. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Reverend Gregory. Any questions, any comments? We have one in the chat.
Yep. What's the chat say? Oops, I can pull it.
Okay.
Okay. Ooh, I hear you. Hang on. Unfortunately, it becomes difficult to prioritize when there are work commitments or trying to establish career pathways. Yes, it is difficult. That's part of what's reality, is that we own the difficulty. That's what I want you to do. Own it. Make choice about it in the midst of that. I'm not trying to ignore that it's difficult. Believe me. One of the things we talk about is you can hold both things at the same time. It says call to coincidental. My son just brought me a note. Yeah, that was just from earlier. Let me see, find it. Oh, there was a question. I don't see a question. Yeah, just a comment. Yeah, it is difficult to prioritize, but take the power back and make your own choices about that. Because, and if it's a day that you are having difficulty prioritizing and you realize that I'm way underwater, own it. That's what I mean. If you're underwater, you don't have to go I'm broken, what's wrong with me? You can go, I'm underwater. What does this mean then? Can I unload cargo? Maybe I can, maybe I can't. If I can't, I need to go home at a reasonable hour because I'm going to be probably underwater for a few days or a few weeks. But if I'm underwater for a few months or a few years, then I really got to make different choices because this isn't sustainable. So don't hear me saying positive psychology, you're going to be fine. I'm saying this is the hardest time we've ever lived in healthcare. And if you don't start making choices about what you need, you're going to go down. And I don't want that. You didn't get into healthcare because you didn't love it. I mean, you got into healthcare because you want to help people. I want to keep you being able to help people and also be functional human beings.